Hello everyone and welcome back. I've got my book, so shall we? And as always, if you don't remember where we are, please feel free to watch a previous video again. It's good for the algorithm, alright? But that's just our little secret, right? Don't tell YouTube that, okay? Not that I get anything from those type bastards anyway. But still, I don't do this for the money. Right, shall we? Now that is over. There we go. The dark side of Hygge. Hanging out with your close friends in a tightly knit social network where you all go way back together and know each other well definitely has its benefits. And I'm sure it does. But in recent years, I've always come to realise that there is a severe drawback to a social landscape like this. It doesn't readily admit newcomers. Every person I've met who's moved to Dart tells me the same thing. It's close to impossible to penetrate the social circles there, or at least it requires years and years of hard work and persistence. See, I've heard this about Scandinavian countries in general. As nice and welcome as they are, you actually will have a bad time if you try to penetrate a friend group. Bad time. So let's move this over. Just realised the reason everything looks weird tonight is because my phone is upside down. My phone didn't tell me this, but since I'm teeny more this way, I should be, that side normally. But you know what? It doesn't matter because you're not here to look at me or the background. You're here to hear me read. So, let's get back to it, shall we? Admittedly, Danes are not good at inviting new people into their friendship circles. In part, this is due to the concept of Hygge. It would be considered less hyggelig if there were too many new people at an event. So getting into a social circle requires a lot of effort and a lot of loneliness on the way. The good thing is, in the words of my friend John, once you're in, you're in. Once you have broken through, you can trust you will have formed lifelong friendships. And if you can tell, you have a picture here of two friends drinking hot liquids, which could be tea, could be coffee. It's hard to tell. But it doesn't really matter, because it's all Hygge. Oh, that's it for the dark side of Hygge. I thought I was expecting there to be a bit more. Anyway, on to the next little chapter. Hygge, socialising for introverts. While I was researching this book, I gave a lecture to a group of American students who were spending a term in Copenhagen. I often use lectures as opportunities to gather input into and inspiration for what I am currently researching. And this was no different, so I steered the discussion onto the relationship between well-being and Hygge. One student who had been quiet in previous discussions raised her hand. "I'm an introvert," she said. "To me, Hygge is such a wonderful thing." The problem was that in the US, she was used to taking part in social activities with a lot of people, a lot of fast networking and fast excitement. In short, she was in the realm of the extroverts. In Denmark, she found that the way social activities were organised suited her much more, and that Hygge was the best thing that could happen for introverts. It was a way of being social without being draining for them. I thought that this was perhaps the most insightful thing I'd heard in a long time. The problems are I would steal her insight and put it in this book. Not a credit mention, no. It is known that introverts derive their energy from within, while extroverts derive theirs from external stimulation. Introverts are often seen as loners, while extroverts are the ones to surround yourself with if you want to have a good time. Introversion is often wrongly linked with shyness, and although social events are not for everyone, and might leave an introvert overstimulated and exhausted, social introverts do exist, just as calm extroverts do. This may sound a bit of a cliche, but introverts often prefer to devote their social time to loved ones whom they know very well, to have meaningful conversations, or to sit down and read a book with something warm to drink. This happens to have a very high Hygge factor rate, right? Introverts are social, but in a different way. There is not one single way of being social, but it might feel like there are right and wrong ways. Just because introverts are drained by too many external stimuli doesn't mean they don't want to hang out with other people. Now, this is something I've often found. Despite my introverted nature, I do actually desire social things, you know? Keep getting to look at the cameras on the other side today. I know I could technically switch around, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it here. See if anyone actually notices. Oh, where was I? I've lost myself now. Excuse me, people. Right. Here we go. There is not one single way of being social, but it might feel like there are right and wrong ways. Just because introverts are drained by too many external stimuli doesn't mean they don't want to hang out with other people. Hygge is a way of socialising which can suit introverts. Now you see why I was attracted to Hygge. They can have a relaxing and cozy night with a couple of friends without including a lot of people and a lot of activity. An introvert might want to stay at home instead of attending a big party with a lot of people they don't know, and Hygge becomes an option. Something in between socialising and relaxing. It makes these two worlds go hand in hand, which is great news for both introverts and extroverts, since it becomes something of a compromise. So to all introverts out there, do not feel embarrassed or boring for being a person who prefers things that are Hygge. And to all extroverts, light some candles, put on some soothing music and embrace your inner introvert, just for the night. And here at the bottom we have a Hygge tip, which I shall read for you. How to make memories. It is common knowledge that the best part of memories is making them. Start a new tradition with your friends or family. You might be playing board games on the first Friday of every month, or celebrating the summer solstice by the sea, or whatever it is that can unite your group around a meaningful activity which will knit the group more tightly together over the years. And that's the end of chapter 3. But it's not the end of tonight's video, as you can probably tell by the timer. But we're on chapter 4, food and drink. I'm assuming you can see that. I can't because my book is in the way of my screen. Not that it matters. Alright. Chapter 4, food and drink. As before we start, there is a picture of a Scandinavian style cafe. Seems nice and Hygge, although personally my Hygge would have a bit more colour to it. But this isn't my Hygge, so it doesn't really matter. You are what you eat. If Hygge was a person, I think it would be Hugh Fernie Rittenstall from River Cottage. If you're not British, you probably won't know who that is. I'll put a little wiki in the description just so you have an idea if you are interested. Not that it really matters because I don't know who clicks on that thing or not, but we shall see. With a casual, rustic and slow approach to life, he embodies many of the key elements of Hygge. And he also seems to understand the value of good, hearty food in the company of good people. New Nordic food has got a lot of attention in the last few years. The centre of attention has been Noma, which opened in 2003 and has been rated the best restaurant in the world 4 times since 2010. While a dish consisting of live shrimp covered in eggs may make the headlines, it is relatively far from everyday Danish cuisine. Okay. Traditional Danish lunch includes a budget version of smørrebrød, which is open-faced sandwiches on rye bread with pickled herring, or leverpostej, which is liver paste, a spreadable mixture of baked chopped pig's liver and lard. Doesn't that sound lovely? No, I couldn't really hold my sarcasm there, but until you try it, you don't really know. I bet you think those ants are beginning to look appetizing. Not yet, they aren't. For dinner, 50 Shades of Meat and Potatoes would be an apt title for a traditional Danish cookbook. Danes are meat lovers, and on average every person consumes around 48 kilos of meat per year, with pork being the nation's favourite. As some of that stuff doesn't sound very nice, I will say now, it still sounds more tempting than the shrimp. I've seen, you have to cook, shrimp is like lobster, you have to cook it alive. And I saw this once years ago at a barbecue in Thailand I was at. They just grabbed them, put them on this little griddle thing, and put it over the fire, and they just cooked. I saw their eyes pop. I think about that sometimes. I've had trouble eating shrimp or general crustaceans like that ever since, really, because that's all I can think about sometimes. Actually, before reading this, I never really thought about that thing for, well, a long time. Oh well. Try not to think about that, people, if you do like shrimp. You know, the whole being cooked alive thing. Anyway, on with the book. The high level of meat, confectionery and coffee consumption in Denmark is directly linked to Hygge. Hygge is about being kind to yourself, giving yourself a treat and giving yourself and each other a break from the demands of healthy living. Sweets are hyggelige. Now this bit I think I can get behind. Cakes is hyggeligt. Coffee or hot chocolate are hyggeligt. 2. Carrot sticks, not so much. Something sinful is an integral component of the Hygge ritual, but it should not be something fancy or extravagant. Foie gras is not hyggeligt, and I'm glad about that. Foie gras is, I think it's made, I think that's what, I think it's like goose fat, goose vomit or something like that. You have to stuff the tube down like the goose, and I think that's right. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, there'll be this big thing across the screen saying, I am wrong, I am wrong. But if I'm partially right, I won't. A hearty stew is hygge. Popcorn is hygge, especially if you all share the same bowl. Let's sin together. A couple of years ago, I visited a friend of mine and his family. His daughter was 4 at the time, and over dinner she turned to me and asked, "What is your job?" "I try to find what makes people happy," I replied. "That's easy," she shrugged. "Sweets. When it comes to happiness, I'm not sure the answer is that simple, but she might have been onto something when it comes to hygge." That kid is definitely onto something. Definitely. Danes are crazy about confectionery, and the majority of people associate it with hygge. Gummy bears, licorice, and flødeboller, which is, oh, there's the pronunciation, flødeboller. Flødeboller. Chocolate domes stuffed with cream. I'm assuming. In fact, according to a report by Sugar Confectionery Europe, the annual consumption of confectionery in Denmark is 8.2 kilos per person, making it second only to the Finns as the people who eat more sweets than anyone in the world, twice the European average. Now, I have been to Denmark, and I did go into a proper Danish shop. I think the place is called Roskilde. I could be wrong on that, but I remember the day. That's where I got that little dome thing there, right there. I pointed to it right there. That's where I got that from. It was like a tourist shop in a little museum where they made replica Viking boats. But you know, the era of the Vikings is over now, just in case you don't know. Also, by 2018, the Danes are expected to gobble down 8.5 kilos of confectionery, overtaking Finland as the world's most sweet-crazed country. And it's not just sweets Danes are crazy about. Cake, anyone? And look, there's a little thing here about sweet consumption. Or if you're American, candy. See it? Cake. Who doesn't love cake? Cake is most definitely hyggelig, and we Danes eat a lot of it. Cake is a common sight in our offices. John is one of my poker buddies, and he and I meet over a pint at his favourite bar in Copenhagen, the Lord Nelson, to discuss hygge and our Danish cake obsession. We do walks by the meeting rooms to scout and monitor leftover cake. We call it Cake Watch, he told me. And this is just for internal meetings. If clients are coming, then there will be petty falls on top. John is right, cakes and pastries make everything Hygge, both eating them and baking them. They also bring an atmosphere of casualness to any business meeting. However, most cakes are eaten outside the office, at home, or in cake shops. One of the most popular and traditional ones is La Glace, Denmark's oldest confectionery shop established in 1870. I never went there and I'm regretting it now. Their selection of cakes, including cakes named after famous Danes like Hans Christian Andersen and Karen Blixen, looks like something out of a dream. The most famous cake is perhaps sport cake, which is essentially an ocean of whipped cream and so not exactly the breakfast of sport champions. The name derives from the fact that the cake was first produced for the premiere of a play called Sportsman in 1891. The old ideals, the interior, the cakes and pastries, and the beautiful rooms in which one sits down to enjoy a sweet masterpiece scream Hygge all over Copenhagen. And that, people, is the end of tonight's video. Next time we shall go more in depth into Danish cakes. But before we do, I'll show you some photos. Some Hygge photos, look. See? Have a look at those Hygge photos. And that, people, is the end of tonight's video. Now, obviously, we are making good progress with this book, as you can see. I hope that you're enjoying this. I know this isn't technically not quite your typical self-help book, but I thought it was worth reading. But anyway, until next time, people, please take care of yourselves out. Actually, if you are listening, why not share your favourite cake? It's good for the algorithm. Share your favourite cake, and I'll share one of mine in return. But until next time, people, take care of yourselves, okay? Bye.